Welcome to Jerry's blog. In this video, I'll be discussing about sutures. Alright? I'll be discussing about sutures. Now, moving on, we have the coronal suture here. The coronal suture is formed between the frontal bone and the parietal bone. It is formed between the frontal bone and the parietal bone. This is the frontal bone which I'm outlining here, and this is the parietal bone. This is the coronal suture from this point here all through to the other side of the skull. It is the coronal suture all through to this side of the skull. Now there is this structure at the center which I am outlining now. It is called the bregma. The bregma is the position for the anterior frontanale. Now moving on, between the two parietal suture, we have this structure called the sagittal suture. Alright, this suture is called what? The sagittal suture. It is located between the two parietal bone. Now this white structure posteriorly is called lambda. Lambda is the position for the posterior frontanale. Now lambda is located between the occipital bone and the two parietal bone. Now, the suture between the parietal bone and the occipital bone is called the lambdoid suture. Lambdoid suture. Lambdoid what? Suture. Moving on, we have this bone called the temporal bone. Now, in between the temporal bone and the occipital bone, there is a suture called the occipitomastoid suture. Occipitomastoid suture. This suture is located between the occipital bone and the temporal bone. Now moving on, there's another structure here called asterion. Alright, asterion. Now this asterion is formed by the parietal bone, occipital bone, and the temporal bone. This structure is also like a letter Y. It's formed by the parietal bone, occipital bone, and the temporal bone. This is the asterion, or it's also the position for the posterior lateral frontanale. Posterior lateral frontanale. Moving on, we have this suture in between the temporal bone and the parietal bone. This suture is called the parietomastoid suture. This suture here is called the parietomastoid suture. Parietomastoid suture. Now moving on, here is an H structure which is called the piterion, anterolateral frontanale location. It is the position for the anterolateral frontanale of the skull. Now, this suture here between the sphenoid bone and the parietal bone is called the sphenoparietal suture. The suture here is called the sphenoparietal suture. This suture which I am outlining is called the sphenoparietal suture. Moving on, between the sphenoid bone and the frontal bone, alright, this is the sphenoid bone, this is the frontal bone. This suture here is called the frontal suture. The suture I'm outlining is called the frontal suture. Alright, moving on, you can actually see other sutures, but very important is this piterion. Okay, this piterion is the location for an artery called the middle meningeal artery, and any fracture can affect the middle meningeal artery. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you.